everyone. Welcome to another Data Vault Q&A. I'm Julien Redmond, and I'm joined once again by my colleague, Nols Ebersohn.
Hi, Julien. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you again. And these Data Vault Q&As are brought to you by Iris, your best choice of automation for your lakehouse. All right, I have a question for you today, Nols, which I feel like I kind of maybe know the answer to this one, but I'm going to let you give the explanation, seeing as how you're the expert. Okay, so when should you create a new hub versus reuse an existing one?
Oh, that's actually a hot topic because there's a healthy tension between the modeling ideal or the enterprise idea and the implemented realities that we are experiencing as the data flows. And so sometimes we will find that a business key, the idea may span two systems, but the implemented realities are vastly different. And so the question that helps us guide us as to whether we reuse the same hub or whether we actually introduce a second hub is a two-part question. And those two questions are simply this. Are the business keys that we are dealing with the same grain, so the same level of detail, and you'll see that they even have the descriptive details will describe the same kind of thing, and they have to be the same meaning or semantics. And so they could both be customer details from two different systems, but they are at a different grain. The one could be at the corporate customer level, the other one could be an individual retail customer, and then you need to understand, are they the same grain and same semantics? And this is where the business process, understanding the business process, really helps us to triage that question, to actually understand, are they actually the same thing or not? If the processes, the business processes are very much the same business processes, then they are the same grain, same semantics. The one just manages a subsection of a much greater cohort. And so ideally, they could be in the same hub without too much issue. So that helps us to answer that question. The thing that muddies the water, so to speak, is this. What if the structure of those two business keys are vastly different? What if my one system carries a single column business key and the other system carries three columns that identifies arguably the same thing, the same person? Well, now we have a little bit of an integration technical debt that we need to resolve, because smashing these three columns together to make a single key makes for great ingestion, very easy to ingest, very easy to integrate. It is terrible to consume, and then in the report saying, okay, now, is this a one column business key or a three column business key? Because the business is expecting, if it's from the second system, to be three columns. And all they get is the single thing that's got all sorts of special characters in it, and they go, I don't know.
So that might be like full name versus first name, middle name, last name?
Here's a classic example. I don't think the system is around that much anymore, so it's a safe example. There's a banking platform called Hogan. And Hogan stores all of the customer details as a three-part key. And so its origin was way in the late 80s, early 90s. And that was when product was king. Your account was the thing that identified you. So the account stays the same. And if you change your surname, you now get a brand new customer key because it's which general ledger you belong to, then a mnemonic using your name and surname, and a tiebreaker column because not even that was unique. And so now you have additional context. So you could argue that there is a different level or grain or context to that particular key. So you can argue that. And then, of course, you can have the same person have multiple keys. So you have a potential grain difference. So we can arm wrestle that as well. But here's the practicality of it. That particular three-part business key appeared in something like 36 internal tables. Okay. Then comes the year 2000, and customer is king, and customer focus becomes a trend and all of that. So instead of going and fixing 36 tables, they simply created a surviving value on the customer table that just got a customer ID associated to the 3-part business key in the same table. So that's a very nice same as link, no problem, excellent. But now you have a one-to-many relationship, so it's a difference in grain.
Yeah, right.
And instead of fixing in all 36 tables, they just kept that stable. Why change everything if you can just mask it on the way out with the same singular value? So easy peasy, allegedly.
Yeah.
Now you have a problem. You still have the integration problem between the customer ID at an enterprise level and the customer ID or the customer composite key within a Hogan. And so in that case, we said, no, we'll specialize a hub specifically for the Hogan structural concept. So we don't lose the structural metadata. We don't introduce 1,000 hard rules to go and change the 3-part key to a single key in 36 places.
Yeah.
And so it goes into the data vault very nicely, and you still have the relationship between them. So you can navigate seamlessly from the 1-part key to the 3-part key without any issue because the relationships in the hubs exist. Now, from a purist perspective, thou shalt only have one hub describing that concept. As Dan has mentioned, the business key as a concept doesn't necessarily mean it's a single physical entity that is implemented in. So in this case, we, by necessity, by the lack of integration, have to cater for 2 hubs that represented the same concept.
Yeah. And so would you then resolve, if you needed that combined for whatever reason, you'd use a business vault rule?
You could, absolutely. Or you can simply say, well, the business is expecting to see in this report the 3-part key, so we translate all of the single-part business keys to their 3-part equivalent via that relationship, or vice versa. And so it now becomes a choice as to from a business perspective, which one do you want to see? Because I can show you both with no loss of any fidelity or accuracy.
Yeah, great. Makes sense.
And so that was quite the nuance at the end for the tips for young players.
So at a high level, it's essentially same semantics, same grain, then it's the same hub.
Correct.
Unless there is that extra level of complexity.
Yes. If there's a technical debt that prevents you from integrating into the same structure, you have to deal with that technical debt. And so again, as long as those relationships are explicit, you can navigate either side of the coin very elegantly without having any undue issues.
Yep, makes sense. So if there's a fair bit of chatter about source aligned vaults where people have created a hub off a single source and then they've gone to the next source and created another hub. When you want to clean up that, do you use Business Vault, or do you then try and reload everything to a single hub in the raw vault?
Assuming they put the same standards on every one of these isolated data vaults. So the source aligned data vaults are basically where they take this system, they model it and leave it alone. This system, model it and leave it alone. Never shall the 2 touch. Now, if they form the same standards, you could arguably then find these things are the same grain, same semantics, so they should share the same hub. And because you use the same standards and hash functions and all the rest, you can integrate, you can essentially append the 2 hubs, assuming there's no business key collisions, which brings us to the conversation of business key collision code, but that we've already covered in previous Q&As, so have a look at those. But assuming that those are distinct sets of keys, then by all means, you can literally just bring them together and start working through the integration that way. Not ideal. Invariably, most source-aligned implementations did a poor job of staying with the same standards. So integrating it is tougher. And that's why standards are such an important part of your definition of your program of work as you start off with a data vault. So is it possible? Yes. is the sort of specialization of those different hub structures, is that a source aligned thing? No, because the integration is achieved through that relationship, that link. So you don't have, in this case, it's the same system, right?
Yeah.
In Hogan, that contains both business keys. And so that's a great example of, it's not about source alignment, it's about dealing with the integration technical debt that sometimes you can't integrate them in a single hub, physical hub structure. But conceptually, they're still the client concept.
Yep, makes sense. Wow, for a simple question, it was a big answer. But I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your brain once again.
Much a pleasure. Thank you, Julien.
See you next time.
See ya.